When I say, who's the master? You say, so no.
What is up, guys? Showing Off the King here, back with another video. My mind is just blown. Like, we just had the whole kit and caboodle, just everything laid out on a plate for us, but not it. There's so much to analyze with this. I can't even have any cut cards for you guys today. There's no fluff. There's just hardcore thoughts and facts that we got to get out of here. So, I got a lot of notes, so let's get into it. Alright, so this episode of Darling and Franxx, I'm going to actually start working my way backwards. There are two actual parts to this actual episode that I'm going to talk about separately. We get the entire backstory of the world that we live in this Darling and Franxx show, and we also kind of get the rebellion arc started with the clones. Yeah, the clones. That was confirmed. So I'm going to start with the kids first, and then I'm going to start talking about the world that the kids live in now, because there's actually a lot of detail in and of itself for just the world building about what Darling and Franxx is. So Mitsuru, Kokoro, apparently their memories were not hidden, they were completely altered and wiped. So there is no chance for them to get those memories back, according to Ape. Now, again, I think that's the same procedure that they use for 02 and Hero, but again, we saw what happened with them. Their memories ended up coming back. So under the right circumstances, I'm pretty sure that Mitsuru and Kokoro can get their memories back as well. We already started to see that, at least with Kokoro, and every time she looks at the ring on her finger, it starts to kind of come back to her slowly. Like, maybe it's already back now, but because Mitsuru's memories are not back, she wants to kind of protect her heart at this point. So again, it's kind of out there, and it's almost like a moot point, because again, there's just so much else going on right now. That's the least of our worries. So eventually the kids, they finally realize that they can't trust Ape or Papa for that matter, because of everything that's going on. So far, so much so that Hero actually confronts Papa and actually asks, Ape, can you return the memories of Mitsuru and Kokoro? To which, of course, they, said, hell no. So it's going to be really interesting, because Ape, they basically said, we want our freedom. We don't want to be with you guys anymore. And Ape simply responded very quickly, mind you, if you guys can finish this mission, we will set you free. And then you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what that means. Like, I totally figure that as long as Ape gets what they want, and we still don't know what their actual mission is, they're just going to kill off all the pilots. That's exactly what they're going to try to do. They're going to be like, okay, we don't need you anymore, so boom. Blow you up, blow up you and your Franxx, and we no longer need you anymore. You're done. So that's the only reason why I feel like Ape actually said, sure, that's fine, yeah, because this is their last mission to get true immortality. And again, that's what the bulk of this review is going to be about, is talking about immortality, because again, that's the driving force of Ape and what this show is really about. And there are a lot of real world situations going on with this show. Like, I didn't think, Team Trigger and, A1 would get this deep in the world building, where they're actually using real life situations to kind of mold this show. It's actually very, very interesting. So as far as the kids are concerned, it's the most important part, 02 is a clone of the Galaxosaur Princess. Who knew? Like, I think we all thought that, there was some relation to the Galaxosaur Princess in 02, which is why they said they needed 2 keys. We already have one as half of the key. So, to find out that Dr. Franxx is the one who cloned 02, as well as responsible for cloning all the parasites, is very, very shocking. So, but we'll get into that a little bit more. And as a matter of fact, let's jump back to the beginning. So, the world that was built in this show. So I'm not gonna retread everything, because again, if you watch the episode, you clearly understand exactly what's going on in this show. So I'm not gonna just rehash everything. But what I do want to touch on is a few things. So this whole dilemma started in 2025, and Dr. Franxx is a mad scientist who was implementing cloning research. He meets his love interest, Milsa. One thing I didn't actually like about that is that we get introduced to Milsa, but at the end of the day, it's not like Dr. Franxx ever actually really cared about Milsa so much. He even went as far as to say, you have horrible taste in men, because he's like, if you want me and you want to be with me, I'm a horrible human being. I don't know why you would want to be with me. And I kind of was looking at her the same way, like, this guy's like a distant asshole. Like, he only really cares about his science. So, but if you guys want to get together, okay. So even when she dies, like, you can tell that he felt for her, like he was hurt for her and his loss. But you find out later that when he meets the Klaxosaur princess, he gets more of a high from that than we ever seen him get of Milsa. So that was actually very off-putting for me as a character. I was just like, so you see the Klaxosaur princess one time and she just so happens to be a lolly, but or a lol, however you guys say it, I'm not 100% sure. But your wife Milsa dies, and I've never seen you have that sort of excitement for her at any given point in the show. So I just thought that was very interesting. But even more so interesting than that is how we got to where we are today as a society, and that's what I really want to talk about. So it looks like this was a social, economical change. It's like the rich folks, Ape shows up, and they provide the world with magma energy. It's this way that you can dig and just create a new source of energy. And of course, with that, and again, that's a huge juxtaposition to how real life is. The rich is the one that had access to all of this energy, and they developed the world. And of course, the rich got richer, which Ape was, and then they got into the politics. And then from the politics, they started experimenting and trying to obtain immortality. And there's a huge drawback to being immortal, or their version of immortal is you lose your reproductive organs. So that's why the other people in the city don't actually have reproductive organs, because in order for you to get immortality, you have to give up your reproductive organs. And again, for the rich, if they say, "Hey, I can live forever or I never age," sure, take away my reproductive organs. I don't need to have kids. And the crazy part is that over that course, you realize, and again, there's a lot of movies and a lot of things you see today. Stuff like that costs money, and when you are rich, you have access to that kind of money. And then guess what happens to the poor people? They don't have access to that. So what happens is that they're still screwing and having babies, and then what the government does is to try to control the population is they put a heavy tax on having kids, which prevents people from having more kids, which is why having kids in general had become a taboo, as we saw with Mitsuru and Kokoro. That's why it was such a cardinal sin, because everyone that was alive at that point was striving to become immortal, to never age, to live forever. And I don't know how well that works out, because you can clearly see now that these people are starting to age now, and that could be just because they're not getting enough magma energy. So that in and of itself is just a lot more questions that's going on. So I found that very interesting. But one thing that I really wanted to touch on, that's why mankind disappeared. So after the Klaxosaur attack in 2037, they said that humanity was driven underground. Now, I found out that was to be very interesting, because we can clearly tell that the Klaxosaurs they're also using that same magma energy. And I think what's happening is that maybe the Klaxosaurs were actually living underground this entire time. And I don't think that they're necessarily they're attracted to the magma energy. I think that they probably were the ones who originally had that magma energy. And of course, just like how, the people came over from England over to America and wanted a land from the Indians, and what did they do? It was pretty much mass genocide, and just took what they wanted, and then they took over everything. And I think this is just the same situation where the world wanted the magma energy from the Galactosaurs, and in doing so, they started mining it so much that the Galactosaurs had to retaliate to say, hey, if we don't stop this now, they're going to take all our magma resources and we're not going to have anything. So I think this whole story now is probably a huge fight over the magma energy, and they're trying to make a deal with the Galactosaur princess so that they can still mine it so that Ape can get their immortality. So I think that's what's really going on now. The question is we still don't know if the people under the Ape mask are robotic or are they or they're just like a consciousness, because we know that if you're human, they can the Galactosaur princess can talk directly into your brainstem and affect you. That's how we knew when Ape and Papa, when they all attacked the Galactosaur princess a couple of episodes ago, there was one of those members of Ape that was supposedly immortal, and he was not affected by her talking directly into his brain. So we still need to figure out exactly what's going on Ape and what their true goal is. We understand now that it's magma energy, but we just don't know how far that really goes. So again, that'll be really interesting to kind of see what's going on there. The only other thing that I kind of wanted to touch on is with Ape trying to start a war with the Galactosaur princess, where does that leave 02? Because what exactly is that end goal? Like, we don't know what exactly they plan on doing with 02. And we don't even really know, for that matter, what Dr. Franxx' true goal is, because we know now that he's obsessed with the Galactosaur princess, so there is some skin in the game with him. Is it a situation where Ape is promising him that he can have 02 if he goes along with the plan, or is it a situation where Papa really wants the Galactosaur princess? He wants to see her again. He wants to marry her, get with her. I don't know, because I'm pretty sure if she sees him again, she's going to bite his other arm off. Just saying. So it'll really be interesting to figure out what's going on with 02, and she finds out that she's basically just a clone. Well, everybody's just a clone. The parasites are clones. 02's a clone. They're all clones. So it'll be interesting to figure out how that goes as a whole. One thing that I will say is that I definitely am very much interested in what the Galactosaur princess has in store for our heroes. And again, I still think that what Ape is working on is a giant Frank. And now I do understand now that the reason why in the opening for Darling and Franxx and we see that giant Galactosaur hand holding 02 is because, as far as it's concerned, it is the Galactosaur princess, because it's her DNA that's being used for 02. So 02 is basically the Galactosaur princess. Or if you want to kind of say it on a side note, she's more like a daughter of the Galactosaur princess because it's her offspring. But again, it might be more accurate to say that she is a clone of the Galactosaur princess, so it's more of the same person, which is why technically Ape Papa doesn't need the Galactosaur princess, because they can just take 02 and use her to fill out this plan that we still don't know about. But again, like I said, this episode was amazing. Again, a lot of answers that we got, but again, we still have a lot of questions, and we don't have a lot of time left. So it's definitely interesting. I definitely want to know what you guys think. Comment down in the section below. Smash that like button if you enjoy my reviews. Show off the king. You guys have a fantastic weekend.